Trump economic plan, we will cut your energy prices within, mark it down, and you can get very angry at me if we don't do it. Within 12 months, your energy prices will be cut in half. My plan will cut energy prices in half, or more than that, within 12 months. Number one, your energy bill within 12 months will be cut in half. So that's my pledge all over the country. We have farmers and stuff. Vote for me on energy and electricity prices in half within 12 months. We're going to cut them down.
And MAGA weirdo MAGA politician, Troy Nels, who wears like Trump shirts and like weird Trump American flag bow ties when he's on Capitol Hill. Just take a look at this guy, by the way. Our reporter on the Hill, Pablo Manriquez, caught up with Troy Nels, and we just wanted to get the perspective, of all this, and which is, Donald Trump promised, we heard those clips right there, that he would reduce energy prices by 50%. Troy Nels, you're a MAGA sycophant. What do you make of it, Troy? Watch Troy's response. It's so utterly embarrassing. Play this clip.
Donald Trump said that he would lower the cost of energy by 50% in his first 12 months. What's your message for Americans who are seeing their energy prices go up?
Well, energy, there's several things. Energy, you got gas. Gas prices are down. Other things are down, but we have very unstable. The entire globe, there's a lot of instability, obviously with Venezuela, with oil, this and that. There's a lot of fluctuations with all that. So I think Donald Trump, just give him time. Give that man time to continue to lead. And if Congress will follow that lead, you will see energy prices reduced by 50%. There's no question about it, because Donald Trump is right all the time.
But on the topic of the disastrous Trump economy, and not just the short-term damage, but the long-term damage it is causing, I want to bring in someone that I admire, and someone who I'm sure you admire as well, Justin Wolfers, professor over at University of Michigan, professor of economics. Let's bring in Professor Wolfers. I want to have a conversation with him about Donald Trump's disastrous economy and how we should be thinking about this right now as well. Let's bring in Professor Wolfers. Professor Wolfers, great to see you.
Right, I'll go by Justin, but good to see you, David.
Justin, great
Or
to
unless
see
you want to go by Professor. So, how do I pronounce it?
Myself. It just depends how I'm feeling. I prefer to go by Ben though. But Justin, let's get into it. So this past week, we saw yet another kind of fake deal announced by Donald Trump. He goes to Davos. He confuses Greenland with Iceland. He says we need to acquire it. Later on in the day, he announces we've done this great deal, and we did it with NATO. Apparently didn't.
In the view of Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, the UK is his country's #1 enemy, with many Russian officials more fearful of the island nation than any other country, including the United States. So let's take a closer look at how this is possible and why Russia has sought to hide its secret fears for so long. On the face of it, the idea of the UK being a bigger enemy to Russia than the US sounds ridiculous. The US is well known as the most powerful nation on Earth by far, with the strongest armed forces, the most advanced military equipment, hundreds of military bases and strategic locations all over the world, and a vast arsenal of more than 5,000 nuclear weapons. The US is also one of the world's largest countries, with almost unparalleled influence in international politics and unmatched economic might. The UK, meanwhile, isn't even in the top 10 European countries by size, and has long been seen as a fading power, with a fraction of the power and influence it enjoyed during the heyday of the British Empire. It still has a strong military, sitting in 6th spot in the world rankings, according to Global Firepower, but boasts a similar level of strength to countries like France and South Korea, with nowhere near the same kinds of resources as the three big superpowers of today, the US, China, and Russia. The UK is also a nuclear power, but has a relatively small arsenal of just 225 warheads, a mere fraction of Russia's estimated tally of 5,449. Given these facts, Russia shouldn't necessarily have all that much reason to fear the United Kingdom. However, for several years now, especially since the war with Ukraine began, fears, frustrations, and resentments have risen up and boiled over within Russia regarding the UK. Media figures publicly fantasize about dropping nuclear bombs on London. Kremlin officials share their desires of seeing what they call a damp and miserable island disappearing into the depths of the sea. And Russian talk shows bring up Britain more than any other country, often accusing it of plotting to destroy Russia or sponsoring and sanctioning prospective terrorist attacks against the Kremlin. In March 2025, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, even openly accused the UK of being the main instigator of global conflict. A Reuters report published around the same time cited 3 anonymous Russian officials who all admitted that, behind closed doors, Britain is regarded as Russia's main enemy, a statement that has since been repeated by the UK's Defence Secretary, John Healey. A new Eurasian Strategy Centre, NEST report, entitled War with the Anglo-Saxons, How Britain Became Russia's Enemy Number One, also acknowledges since 2022 the Kremlin has recast the UK as public enemy number 1. The report points to several polls that clearly demonstrate how the Russian public increasingly sees the UK as an unfriendly, hostile nation, while also highlighting the growing prevalence of anti-British rhetoric in Russian propaganda. None of this happened overnight. It's the culmination of a rocky relationship that goes back several centuries. And that relationship actually had quite a positive start. During the 16th and 17th centuries, for example, in the early days of the Tsardom of Russia, English and Russian relations were largely agreeable and pragmatic, with a trade route set up between the two countries via the White Sea. And Tsar Ivan IV approaching the English Queen at the time, Elizabeth I, to discuss a possible political alliance. Further into the 17th century, under the Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich, English merchants began trading more actively with Russia, and various English and Scottish military officers travelled to Russia to serve in the Tsar's armies. Then, Peter the Great came to power and actively sought to make Russia more like England. He visited London as a young man, spending several months studying the arts of shipbuilding and navigation, and developing a deep admiration for the English Navy and the country as a whole. He saw it as a model example for Russia to aspire to, triggering a wave of so-called Anglo-mania across Russia, particularly in the country's courts and noble circles, where people became fascinated with British culture. Nobles began reading the works of English novelists and taught their children to speak English as well as French. Then, just as relations between the two countries appeared to be slowly towards positivity, things simply took a turn for the worse. The reign of Empress Catherine II, Russia and Britain turned from friends to competitors during the 1370s, for example, when Russia went to war with the Ottoman Empire. Britain sided with the Turks,
Excuse me.
stop Russia
Whoa.
asserting dominance over the Black
Hydrate.
Sea. In response, an angry Catherine refused to support Britain in its battles in the rebellious colonies of North America during the American Revolution. Relations degraded even more quickly under Catherine's successor, Paul I, who was deeply offended when Britain seized control of Malta. He severed ties with London and opted instead to strengthen bonds with Napoleonic France, even at one stage proposing a joint Franco-Russian expedition to India, aimed at striking at the very heart of Britain's colonial power. When Paul was assassinated in 1801, conspiracy theories soon emerged, alleging that British agents had orchestrated his death, thus beginning a long and ongoing history of Russia suspecting or even outright accusing Britain whenever something goes wrong. In the span of a few
Bet I drink
decades,
more
views
water
of the
than
country had changed tremendously. A place that was once seen as a distant, exotic land of rich culture,
the
with
water
honourable
monster.
military and inspiring scientific
Can't nobody
achievements,
drink
was
more water than
transformed
me.
into a hive
Yes,
of
I'm Sai
scheming,
Kumal.
plotting,
They are.
villainous
I'm
beings
70 years
all
old.
out to get Russia
Cause I
in one
drink
way
lots of
or
water.
another. Many Russians began to refer to England as perfidious Albion, and the phrase "Get it," as it literally translates to "Englishwoman ruins things," began to spread, painting Britain as a place that was constantly conspiring against the empire. From that point on, throughout the 19th century and beyond, Russian newspapers, politicians, and officials repeatedly aimed their ire at Britain over everything and anything. When a harvest was bad, Britain was blamed for meddling with the grain market. If rumours of rebellion began to rise, British spies and subterfuge were surely at the root of it,
We
and
must
so on
protect the
and so
house.
forth. And while much of this was nothing nothing but lies, it all helped to
I
construct
might
the
come up
narrative that the so-called perfidious Albion was at the
possibly,
root of all of Russia's ills. This all came to a head in the mid-19th century during the
especially if
Crimean
I'm just
War,
running the
which ran
track.
from 1853
No
to
battle.
1856. Russia had largely expected Britain to maintain a neutral or even friendly stance in the war. Instead,
I got
the
some
United
J's to
Kingdom
take
sided
care
with
of though.
France, the Ottoman Empire, and the Kingdom of Sardinia, taking a stand
Couple
against
more,
Russia's
just to
imperialist expansion and
elevate.
spearheading the brutal and bloody assault of the Crimean city of Sevastopol. In the years that followed, numerous Russian
I like
journalists,
the
scholars, and artists
the
continued to
community
portray the
engagement in the
UK as a
chat is off the
treacherous state-like
charts.
entity, always lurking in the shadows, extending its tendrils across Europe and
Take
into
care of a
Asia,
J
many
and
where it
come
shouldn't.
lay.
Even as the Russian
Look at this
Empire fell and the
rhyming.
Soviet Union emerged,
Rhyming.
attitudes largely remained the same. When legendary British
You
Prime Minister
criming?
Winston
You
Churchill
criming too?
gave his 1946 speech about the Iron Curtain, for example, Soviet leaders interpreted
The
his words as a
community.
declaration of psychological warfare. Churchill was subsequently
Yeah,
demonized
we
in the Soviet
engage.
media and labeled a warmonger, while national newspapers were regularly filled with caricatures involving Britain, represented as a lion, goaded on by America, looming large and asserting dominance across Europe. As the Cold War progressed, the US did slowly supersede Britain as Russia's public enemy number one. And relations between Russia and the UK even began to thaw slightly towards the end of the 20th century, with British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev famously sharing a lot of respect and admiration for one another despite their ideological differences. But the undercurrent of mistrust between the two nations never truly went away, and the situation once more started to spiral in the early 2000s after Russia's new president, Vladimir Putin, came to power. In 2003, Putin was outraged after the UK refused to extradite Boris Berezovsky, one of his biggest enemies. Britain also grew increasingly uncomfortable with the rapid restriction of democratic freedoms across Russia, and Moscow responded by piling regulatory pressure onto big British businesses like BP and Shell. Then in 2006, another major incident occurred. Alexander Litvinenko, a former KGB officer and an outspoken critic of the Kremlin, was poisoned with polonium in central London, having only recently been granted British citizenship. It didn't take long for experts and intelligence agencies to put two and two together. It was almost guaranteed that Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, was responsible, and that Putin himself had most likely given the order to have Litvinenko killed. But Britain didn't jump to any
I don't
conclusions.
remember.
At
That
least
was
not
too long
publicly.
ago.
It exercised patience,
What the
expending
Brit
a
are
handful
you
of intelligence
listening to? You
officers
can
on
hear him
Russian
good,
secrecy,
or is he just
cutting
barely
ties
on
with
there?
the FSB, while announcing the start of what would go on to be a
Yes,
decade-long
Educate
I'm
yourself.
Sai Kumal, the alchemist.
This culminated in 2016 with the final
Edumacations.
report, which stated quite clearly what so many had suspected
Excuse
for
me.
so long. Putin and his
Sorry
FSB
for the
director, Nikolai Patrushev,
Yes,
burping.
I'm Sai
approved the
Kumal,
killing.
the
A couple of years
I need to
later,
do some
history
burpees
repeats
for
itself.
burping.
In 2018, Sergei Skripal, former
Perfect.
Russian military intelligence
The
officer,
Brit makes you lower the volume. That was all part of the plan.
Yes, I'm Sai
You're
Kumal,
silly.
the alchemist. Who wants to
You're
know?
so silly.
The Trump administration is digging themselves
Let's
into
see
a
what
hole that they
YouTube
will
is
not be
talking
able to
about.
crawl out of. The American people can see
People
what the
getting
state
shot.
is murdering U.S. citizens on the streets, and the American people don't like to be lied to by Donald Trump and the stooges
I don't
around
know
him.
who this
On
Yes,
screen
guy
now,
I'm
is, but he
Sai
sounds a
Kumal.
little
Border
gay.
Patrol Commander at Large
Yes,
Gregory
I'm
Nothing
Sai
wrong with
Roman,
being
Kumal,
a
the
gay.
man who
alchemist.
intentionally dresses like SS agents. So it's not an exaggeration to say that he is intentionally trying to look like an SS agent, and a man who reminds me of Colonel Randolph from one battle after another, walks around with an unearned veil of authority, even though he is an impotent man and an incompetent leader. Well,
He
on
does,
screen now,
doesn't
we'll see Gregory Bovino getting grilled by CNN's Dana Bash to provide any evidence whatsoever
he?
that Alex Reddy
Community
was trying to assault
engagement.
law
Sorry
enforcement
that
officers.
sometimes I'm a
The
little
administration
delayed.
keeps making these insane declarative claims about Alex Reddy and Renee Nicole Good, calling them both domestic terrorists who are trying to harm everybody around them.
Oh,
But every
he
time
does
they are
say
pressed
there.
for evidence, they then put behind this idea that we need to wait for the
investigation. You can't have it
I
both
can't
ways. You
fast
can't call
forward.
them
I'm
terrorists and
playing.
then say we have to wait for the evidence to come out. No, I want to show you the moment Dana Bash
Hey, the other
confronts
people
him,
watching, you guys
shows
need
him the
to
footage throughout this
follow just
interview.
so
As this
my
interview goes on,
page
he's
gets some
showing
more
you footage
likes.
on the screen and says, look, we're
Please!
showing you what happened. You cannot deny this. And Gregory Rubino has no
Check
answer
out the
whatsoever.
clips.
So
I'll be
make sure you drop
slaying
a like
people.
to boost this pro-democracy message.
Hit that
Subscribe
like
to the
button.
Adam Mockman feed to help independent media. Let's just start with the most heated clip, and then we'll jump in from there because it continues to go off the rails for Greg Rubino.
There's no evidence that he was perpetrating
Somebody
violence.
talk to
And
Valley.
there's
She
no
needs a
evidence,
chat
unless you
button.
have it, we'd love to see it if there is, that he was intending to massacre law enforcement, other than the fact that he was there and he had a gun lawfully.
He used to be there beforehand. Again, Dana, he was there beforehand.
How do you know that?
Make it
How do you know that?
creative.
Because he was there.
No, I'm
But all
just
he was doing was
kidding.
filming and
Very
documenting it, which was legal. He was carrying a gun in
I
Minneapolis.
didn't say it wasn't.
This guy's making no sense. You might as well have Nick Shirley out there representing you if you're going to be stuttering and stumbling your way through an interview like this. What do you mean he was out there before? We can see on the video that the Border Patrol agent takes the gun away from him when he's on the ground, and then they shoot him multiple times. We can see that he was only trying to help the woman who was just pushed to the ground. He had his phone in his hand. When I zoom in, that's a phone in his hand. He was not trying to mass execute anybody. What a sick, demented lie. It continues.
And I didn't say it wasn't legal.
So then what did he do that was illegal?
Assault federal law enforcement when he does that.
What you
That's
trying to
an
get
active
now? You gotta
law
get
enforcement
water.
Where
crime
do you
scene.
see in the video that he was
You gotta get water.
Where do you see in the video that he was
Yeah.
assaulting law enforcement?
Good
Because from
question.
everything we have seen,
Drink it.
law enforcement was
All of
assaulting
it and
him
come fill
when
it
he
up.
was there trying to help another
We may
individual.
pass.
Dana, law enforcement doesn't assault anyone. Follow directions of law enforcement. Follow directions of law enforcement in an
It's cold,
active
huh?
crime scene. It's very evident he didn't want to do that. Very evident that the other individuals didn't want to do that. And you know, it's too bad the consequences had to be paid because he injected himself.
Jesus Christ, it doesn't get any better, but you know what's too bad, Gregory Rubino, that our government is working with people like you who will watch a video of a United States citizen getting executed and then go on TV and call them a terrorist after and say it's too bad that he had to be there. There's one sentence that Gregory Rubino says there that reveals more than he meant to reveal. He says, quote, law enforcement doesn't assault anyone. Gregory Rubino has made that as a blanket statement. Law enforcement never assaults anyone. He's saying essentially that law enforcement should have absolute immunity, whether you're a Border Patrol agent, an ICE agent, or a police
Yes,
officer,
I'm
to
Sai
enact your
Kumal.
most heinous instincts on people around you. He's saying that people like Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered George Floyd, never assaulted anyone. That law enforcement can never assault anyone. What an insane statement to make. I mean, ICE has 2,000 allegations of sexual abuse
What
over the
else you
past few
get?
decades. Are you going to say that those aren't
Tell the
actually
truth.
assaults, Greg Rubino? In this next clip, Dana Bash points out, we have footage showing him holding a cell phone, not a gun. You know, that seems to be a pretty damn important detail because their entire claim rests on the idea that he was there to commit mass murder against ICE agents. He's holding a phone and helping people around him. This inversion of reality is insane, and the fact that we have to argue even about this is insane. We all know the truth.
Multiple angles of this incident show him holding up a cell phone and recording it, not a gun. Did he at any point pull out his weapon?
Dana, good morning, and thanks for having me. The weapon, and
She brought
we
it.
do know that the suspect did bring a weapon, a loaded 9mm high-capacity handgun to a riot. We do know that. As far as what happened in that intervening moment with the video that you just showed, that's going to come to light through the investigation. That's being investigated, and those facts and those questions will be answered soon enough.
All right, that's how the interview starts. Greg Rubino comes out and says we have to wait for the facts to come out via the investigation, but I think he should tell that to people like Stephen Miller and JD Vance. Stephen Miller tweeted, not even an hour after the shooting happened, quote, an assassin tried to murder federal agents and this is your response. Wow, maybe you should wait for the investigation to come out. Guess who reposted that? None other than JD Vance. They are officially going with the narrative that he was an assassin. It's so incredibly offensive when we know that is not true. That's when the interview begins to escalate. Of course, the clip I showed you very early on is later in the interview when it's already escalated. This is when it really starts to hit the fan because Dana Bash says, what do you mean he wants to massacre law enforcement? What evidence do you have?
Well, you said yesterday that this looks like a situation where the individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Yep, even Gregory Bovino said yesterday that exact thing. So why is he saying today we have to wait for the facts of the investigation? I hate talking out of both sides of your mouth like these administration officials do.
What evidence do you have that he wanted to massacre law enforcement? Because all the videos that we have, and I do want to, we just have a still shot up now, but I do, control room, want to play one of the other videos. Let's play video number 1 again. It doesn't look anything like he's trying to massacre law enforcement. In fact, he was filming, and then it looked like he was trying to help another individual there. He was pushed down by law enforcement, and then they went after him.
In fact, I believe that the fantastic training that our law enforcement partners have, the fact that they're highly trained, prevented any specific shootings of law enforcement. So good job for our law enforcement in taking him down before he was able to do that. And again, Dana, let's look at why he was there in the first place.
No, don't do it. Don't blame it on Tim Walz.
Was he simply walking by and just happened to walk into a law enforcement situation and try to direct traffic and stand in the middle of the road and then assault, delay, and obstruct law enforcement? Or was he there for a reason? Did he fall victim to that violent and heated rhetoric by
Yes,
Governor Walz?
Oh, he brings up Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry and tries to blame it on
Yes,
them.
I'm Sai Kumal, the alchemist.
He tries to claim that Border Patrol agents were just following their training and prevented more deaths. The training that they're getting must be non-existent, or it must be training to escalate. Because what you see in the video is Freddie, with a cell phone in his hand in the middle of the street, minding his own business and just filming around him. Then, as he's standing in the middle of the road, a woman gets pushed over by ICE agents. So he walks over and tries to help her up, and he gets pepper sprayed, pinned to the ground. His gun gets grabbed by an ICE agent, then he gets shot after. So they disarmed him, shot him, then they begin screaming, "Where is his gun?" Who knows where his gun is? So they were looking for his gun after because they thought it was on him still. They didn't even know that one had disarmed him in a very reckless way, and the rest thought that I don't even know what the hell they thought they were doing other than executing a U.S. citizen. They're all on different pages and untrained, so him claiming they're following their training is offensive. Him then invoking Governor Tim Walz is doubly offensive. In this next clip, Bovino says he was in the scene assaulting law enforcement. There's no video that shows that.
That he went there to try to stop this law enforcement operation. All of the video that we have seen shows him documenting it with his cell phone, which is a lawful thing to do. And the only time he seemed to interact with law enforcement is when they went after him when he was trying to help an individual who law enforcement pushed down. So where do you have the evidence to show that he was trying to impede that law enforcement operation?
Sure, Dan, at first he was there in the scene. He was in the scene actively impeding and assaulting law enforcement to the point.
But that's not illegal. He wasn't impeding it. He was filming it, which is a legal thing to do in the United States.
Dan, let's freeze frame adjudicate this now. He was there for a reason, and that reason was to impede law enforcement to
what
the point.
What evidence do you have of that?
And here's a good point.
He's actively being shown a video that proves him wrong. He says that Alex was assaulting law enforcement officers, but look at what played out on camera.
Law enforcement to
what
the
evidence
point.
Do you have of that?
And here's a good point.
A gang of law enforcement officers very clearly were the ones assaulting and escalating with Alex. Gregory Bovino is lying, and they're showing him to be a liar on screen.
Dana
Bash is really surgically dissecting him. I think she's doing a good job here because every time he makes a new claim, every time he makes a claim about assaulting law enforcement or having a gun, she then surgically picks apart that claim and makes sure that he looks like an idiot regarding that claim.
The fact that de-escalation techniques were utilized during this action, those de-escalation techniques, whether it was physically trying to remove them from that law enforcement scene, that active law enforcement scene in which law enforcement were going after a violent...
Is Gregory Bovino schizophrenic? What sort of de-escalation situation did you see in the video? Did he see a different video than all of us saw? Because in my mind, one of the most shocking parts of the video is how fast everything escalated. How Alex, in one moment, was just sitting there recording, and the next moment was being ripped to the ground by ICE agents, and the next moment was being shot. It all happened within maybe 20 seconds. That's what struck me as uniquely insane. Greg Bovino is lying and spinning out of his ass. Dana Bash points that out by saying it feels like you're blaming the victim.
With respect, it feels as though in some ways you're blaming the victim here.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The victims are the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation.
This is truly spoken like somebody who would wear this jacket. Truly spoken like somebody who would wear this jacket. You could have written this in the script for Colonel Lockjaw in one battle after another. I would say, no actual agent would speak like that in real life. It's just a script. But here's Gregory Bovino speaking like that in real life, even though we have video footage that shows what actually happened. This woman right here was pushed to the ground by a Border Patrol agent. She gets pushed. Alex goes, "Whoa, dude." Then he puts his hands up. He puts his hands up very clearly. He understands that he has to keep his hands up the entire time. I'm going to leave it there. Let's continue.
As we continue to cover the fallout of the second brutal murder of an American citizen in Minneapolis at the hands of the Trump regime, something very interesting happened this morning on Donald Trump's favorite TV network, which should absolutely
Yes, I'm
terrify
Psycho Man.
MAGA Fox News / Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo, one of the biggest Trump supporters in the Fox orbit, is freaking out and losing her
Yes,
shit, not
I'm
just on
Psycho Man.
Republican members of Congress like James Comer, but Trump administration officials like FBI Director Kash Patel pushing back on the Trump administration and the Republican regarding this murder. And when you lose Maria Bartiromo, you've definitely lost the American people. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video, if you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, we have several clips to play here, and I want to start with
Yes, I'm
Maria
Psycho.
Bartiromo engaging with James Comer, the Republican
Yes,
leader of
I'm
the House
Psycho
Oversight
Man,
Committee,
the
and then I've got
Alchemist.
several clips to show you from a slightly earlier interview this morning with FBI Director Kash Patel. But let's start with Bartiromo and Comer here.
Another individual is dead at the hands of Border Patrol. Let's be clear. We do not know if there was any pushback from this individual who was armed. We do not have evidence that he was waving a gun, doing anything to threaten Border Patrol. He had his phone and he was shooting, he was viewing and recording the incident. That's what he was doing, recording the incident. What is your reaction? And you are an elected official. What can you do about it?
Well, look, I don't think there's any question the majority of Americans want President Trump and ICE to go in and apprehend the...
Just want to know something here. Do you hear how outraged she is? Do you hear how panicked she is? I don't know if it's because she's panicked about the political consequences for her political party, or if it's because she is deeply, actually personally touched by this. She's offended by this. She's outraged by this on a personal level, or a combination thereof. But she's pushing back in ways that very few MAGA Fox hosts actually will. And quite frankly, even the allegedly straight news Fox hosts like Dana Perino wouldn't push back like this. And also note how panicked James Comer is. He's trying to walk the fine line. He knows ICE fucked up. He knows Border Patrol fucked up. He knows this is a murder. He knows that Republicans are getting their asses kicked in the court of public opinion about this, but he's also terrified of Trump. So that's why he's beginning with platitude. Well, I think the majority of Americans really support Donald Trump.
criminal illegals. That's what President Trump campaigned on, and he's doing exactly what he said. I look at what happened in Minneapolis versus what happened in Washington, D.C. When President Trump sent the National Guard into Washington, D.C., the mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser, supported that. She worked, her local law enforcement worked with the president, and in a short period of time, they have really been successful in reducing the amount of crime in Washington, D.C. That was a big success. Fast forward to where we are in Minneapolis. We have a governor, an attorney general, and a mayor of Minneapolis who are getting people jacked up, trying to get them, convinced that this is, some type of illegal raid, that all their lives are threatened. They've got all these white liberals coming in, trying to run over ICE, trying to, spray them and do everything to disrupt.
Yeah, so again, you hear the stammering. I mean, Comer's an idiot anyway. He should be made fun of for the rest of his fucking life. But he's panicked here, and he's trying to flip the script. It's actually liberals. It's white liberals. And notice how, again, that shot across the bow at Nate Good, the first American citizen murdered by the Trump regime in the streets of Minneapolis. They're trying to run people over. That's not what happened, asshole. Now let's turn to Maria Bartiromo's interview with FBI Director Kash Patel, and she also lets Patel have it.
Morning. And I know that this is a DHS investigation, but there is outrage across the country that there is another killing. Someone is dead at the hands of Border Patrol. What can you tell us?
Great to be with you, Maria. Look, Secretary No stated it perfectly. You do not get to attack law enforcement officials in this country without any repercussions. You do not get to do that in Minnesota, LA, or anywhere else. And the interagency is leading the charge out there. We've already arrested with the interagency those that violated the FACE Act and impeded a peaceful prayer in church. We've already just last night arrested 4 more individuals
Yes,
involved
I'm
in the
psycho,
damage
man.
of government property that we saw the videos of online. We've arrested other individuals who made threats to law enforcement online. So we are not messing around. It doesn't have to be in person. If you threaten law enforcement officials or civilians, we are going to come find you.
That has nothing to do with the murder of Alex Preddy.
And as for this latest shooting, yes, DHS and HSI are the lead, and the FBI is processing the physical evidence, so we're in possession of the firearm, which is going to go to our laboratory. But as Secretary No said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines.
I'm psycho.
There's nothing about that said anywhere. There's no... These fucking assholes who have said for years, Second Amendment shall not be infringed, and we gotta protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. It don't matter. You don't get to tell me, Uncle Sam, how many magazines
Yes,
I can
I'm
have.
psycho, man.
These people said that shit. And by the way, the hypocrisy of MAGA on the Second Amendment has been explored to hell and back in the
Yes,
past 24
I'm
hours.
psycho,
It is
man.
truly, truly stunning to see them walk it back. They don't give a fuck about the Second Amendment. They don't give a fuck about the right to bear arms. They don't care about any of that. They want guns to kill liberals, but they don't think liberals can have guns for any reason. And again, Maria Bartiromo, to her credit, pushes back on this shit.
Charged to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol?
He wasn't. The gun was holstered in a small of back holster on his waistband. He had a phone in his hand. He had his free hand. He wasn't reaching for his gun. He was pepper sprayed before he went to the ground. He was surrounded by 7 ICE/Border Patrol agents. And we just reviewed the footage. Go back to my most recent video. The footage has been stabilized. It's been slowed down. It's been zoomed in. One Border Patrol agent identifies the gun in Preddy's holster, rips the gun out of Preddy's holster, runs away from Preddy to put distance between Preddy and the agents and the gun. The other agent in green sees this happen, sees the gun, sees his colleague grab the gun. Preddy's not reaching for it. Preddy's on his knees, hands in front. Sees his colleague successfully disarm Preddy from the holster, run away, then he pulls out his gun and shoots Preddy in the back. Clear cut, black and white, it was murder.
What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case.
Do you hear this shit? He's like, you can't go around threatening law enforcement agents with a gun. Okay, well, how is he doing that? I mean, DHS has to explain that one out.
I want to stylize that evidence, but I trust the men and women on the ground who are trained professionals to only use it when it's absolutely necessary, and I trust Secretary No's leadership and DHS and HSI to do.
So again, Kash Patel is regurgitating Noam's propaganda, DHS propaganda, but when pressed by a MAGA Fox News host, we'll explain it. You're indicating that he was threatening law enforcement with a gun. How was he doing that? He can see Kash Patel in real time. Oh shit. We're gonna have to talk to him.
But it's not stopping. People are mad at ICE and want Border Patrol to stop. You saw what's happening right now in Minneapolis. People are protesting in the streets, pushing Border Patrol out. How will this end?
This will end thanks to President Trump's brilliant leadership to always back the blue. Law enforcement.
He doesn't back the blue. Again, this is situational. If he backed the blue, he would be celebrating the Capitol Police that successfully defended the Capitol against his violent insurrectionist mob on January 6th, instead of mass pardoning the hundreds of cop leaders. Donald Trump, again, guys, it is outrageous because people are dying as a consequence, but please understand this is not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of fact. MAGA is the most openly unprincipled and hypocritical movement in modern American history. They care about nothing other than owning the libs. They don't give a shit about the Second Amendment principle. They don't care about law enforcement principle. They don't care about small government principle. They care about nothing. It's whatever they can pick up, own the libs, even if they themselves suffer in the process. That's what they care about.
How much of this has to do with some of the rhetoric in your view? Just 2 weeks ago, the governor, Tim Walz, told residents to get their phones and start filming whatever is happening and when they see Border Patrol. Listen to this. This is just 2 weeks ago from Governor Tim Walz. Watch.
And Cash Patel goes, and we're going to skip the Walz part because, again, it's just about you use your phones to record. That you have every right to do that. Any person has the right to film and monitor law enforcement. You just do. Now, you don't need to be getting in their faces. You don't need to be interceding or disrupting. That could, especially in today's age, get you killed. But if you see law enforcement conducting law enforcement operations, you have every right to take out your phone and film it. And they can't do anything about it legally.
Your reaction?
I think that type of rhetoric is exactly what's leading to violence against law enforcement that is totally baseless and unnecessary.
I think calling on people to monitor a rogue law enforcement organ peacefully, exercising their rights to monitor, to film, to record law enforcement, I think that's the thing that's contributing to the violence. These people are not serious at all.
No, I mean, thousands of people are marching through Minneapolis. They are targeting the Border Patrol. I mean, it feels like the rhetoric and the protesting is only ramping up. What is your advice to the people right now who are outraged that this is a second killing at the hands of Border Patrol in 2 weeks?
As Christie said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want.
You can't. He had a right to open carry in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. Minneapolis law permits him. There's no law that I'm aware of. Maybe we should have peace go back on, which says, hey, you cannot legally bring a gun to some sort of public engagement, public protest. Now, maybe it's unwise, but it's not illegal. He doesn't give a shit about that.
That's simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence.
What law did he break, and how did he incite violence? He had the right to carry the gun. And I'm going to close with this. Maria Bartiromo, again, she's panicked, she's freaking out, either because she understands the political consequences or because she recognizes on a deep personal level that the Trump administration and Cash Patel and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan and Bambino, the little mini Nazi as I call him, that they all fucked up and murdered an American citizen. But she begs Cash Patel to get the shit together.
Yeah, I mean, Director, somehow you've got to get together with the president's detractors, whether it is on the Democrat side or not, to ensure that we don't have mistakes like we've been seeing, so that we are actually seeing what you're talking about, taking down people who deserve it, and not, in fact, getting people who are in the middle of fire and in the middle of these operations. Why is it that everything you've just said, the Democrats do not agree?
It's not just the Democrats. A majority of America. Folks, I'm telling you, you saw the polls about Renee Good. I'm confident of very little in politics to make total predictions because it's the most complicated field in existence for all intents and purposes. Politics and religion are incredibly complicated. You make very few predictions. The one thing I am willing to bet on is that the polling for Trump and ICE and immigration are disastrous once the polls take into account what happened to Alex Freddie. It's not just the other half of this country. It's not just the other side. It's a majority of Americans, many of whom supported Trump. They are losing. They're not holding their own. It's not a difficult fight. In the court of public opinion, in the court of public polling, they are getting their asses kicked. They're getting cursed on the messaging and public opinion war over this. They are losing.
In terms of the president's agenda.
Well, the Democrats are just upset that it was President Trump that delivered this historic year in law enforcement.
Again, he doesn't even address anything. She's asking, like, hey, listen, notice how she said, you guys made a mistake. So Maria Bartiromo gave the game away right there. As much as it pains her to admit it, she knows Trump was wrong, the Trump administration was wrong, ICE was wrong, Border Patrol was wrong, Kristi Noem was wrong, Kash Patel is wrong. They're the bad guys here, and Alex Preddy was a victim, that he did not deserve to die, that law enforcement fucked up. They're the villains of the story, this specific story at the very least, and Alex Preddy was the victim. She knows that. She just communicated that. And Kash Patel doesn't want to address it. Well, Donald Trump, he gave the historic win. He's just got a huge penis, and everybody loves his six-pack, too. Like, he's just one of, he's so muscular and, he's handsome. Like, all the ladies love him, and also the stamina. Like, this guy's not even serious. He's a loser. Kash Patel is a loser. And in a more just world, when Democrat wins in 2028, all these motherfuckers will be in jail for the rest of their lives. So, when you lose Maria Bartiromo, that should absolutely terrify you. But we'll see what happens. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.
That's funny. Terrible.
We have some major news in the aftermath of the brutal murder of a second American citizen at the hands of the Trump regime that concerns the least popular member of the Trump administration, the leaguered Attorney General Pam Bondi, whose incompetence is legendary, such that she's not only facing backlash from Trump privately, reportedly, but also public calls from prominent MAGA and Republican figures calling for her to either resign or be fired, which of course makes her even more dangerous and incompetent because she's so desperate. And the way this dovetails in with what happened to Alex Preddy, the murder of Alex Preddy, is this. In the aftermath of his murder, she sent a letter to Minnesota leaders essentially saying that they might re-examine the law enforcement operation in Minnesota if Minnesota grants the federal government, the Trump administration, access to Minnesota's voting rolls, exposing Pam Bondi's attempt to blackmail Minnesota so that the Trump administration can try to rig future elections. Very transparent, and we have to lay it out. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, first things first, we got to talk about this interview that Pam Bondi had on Fox News about the murder of Alex Preddy. And it dovetails into this letter that she sent, which has now gone public. Okay, let's start with this.
I was there all week, as you saw. I was in Minneapolis, and we are going to protect our churches. We are going to protect our great men and women in law enforcement who were out there doing their jobs today. They were out there arresting a violent offender, and then this guy comes up. I can't talk about more of the details. Chief Bovino talked about that. It's now all pending, but we will support the men and women in law enforcement, and we will support the good citizens of Minnesota if the governor and that mayor aren't going to do it.
So again, she's desperate, she's wildly unpopular, everybody wants her to get fired because she sucks at her job. She's desperate to try to spin this, suggesting that Alex Preddy was somehow responsible for his murder. Of course, it's been debunked Here's another clip.
Observation, AG, the way that they've been reacting to this. I mean, you saw the press conference with Mayor Jacob Fry. We put up the tweets from Governor Tim Walz. There's not a whole lot of asking for calm. Instead, it's a lot more of get out. You know, ICE, get out. President Trump, get your people out. We're trying to protect our neighbors. Do you feel like that is rhetoric that's contributing to this? Well, we saw the mayor said, F ICE, get out of my effing city. How is that not rhetoric contributing to this? It all is. And that's the shame of it. Look at these murderers, homicide, rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people. We sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today. We had been working on this letter.
That's the letter she's talking about. We'll read it in just a second, but please note it. She previewed this on Fox News.
We got it out saying that he better support President Trump. He better support the men and women in law enforcement, because if he doesn't, we are. And that's what we're doing right now. Were there any consequences in this letter? Well, we'll see. This is fluid. Let's see how Governor Walz responds. Let's see what he does based on this, based on what's happening right now.
Again, you can hear it. She's desperate. She's out of her depth. She knows her ass is on the line politically speaking. MAGA hates her. Liberals hate her. Everyone hates her, right? So she sucks in her job. That's fine. Okay? The letter is referenced again on Fox News following Bondi's interview.
My hands on this letter that the AG was saying that she sent to Governor Tim Walz, and a couple of things in this letter. It is a strongly worded letter. There are a couple of things that the AG is calling for from the governor. Number one, of course, is to help support the men and women of ICE and help support to help them uphold the rule of law. Second, she's calling on the governor to repeal the state sanctuary policies. That's not likely to happen. And number three, to allow the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to access voter rolls to confirm Minnesota law. Okay, it's okay. Paul, stand by.
So again, that crackle there, he said he lost the feed, but she acknowledged, the host did, that the Justice Department is trying to negotiate to get access to Minnesota's voting rolls. So we'll look at the letter in just a second. But first, this is the response of Democratic Senator Chris Murphy to Pam Bondi's extortionist blackmail letter.
By now, you it's just fucking awful. The inhumanity of this. We cannot fund ICE as it is constituted today. But we found out something else really important today. Pam Bondi sent a letter to state officials in Minnesota in which she made a list of demands for ICE to leave Minneapolis. And one of those demands was that the state turn over its voter rolls to the federal government. This has never been about public safety. Minneapolis is a much less safe place today because ICE is there. This is likely about trying to rig and steal the election. Donald Trump is wildly unpopular. He's not committed to democracy. And he knows the only way that his movement is to retain power, the only way that his corporate allies retain power, his billionaire allies retain power this November is for Trump to steal the election. And so he's saying to Minneapolis, if you don't give me control of the voter roll, then ICE is leaving. You can see that it's way within Minnesota. He's likely going to try it in places like Philadelphia and Phoenix, other key cities in swing states. So understand why it's so important for us to draw a line. I have been arguing all weekend that the Senate should not pass funding for the Department of Homeland Security. First and foremost, because this is a rogue agency that's operating outside of the law and is killing American citizens. But also because the underlying game here may be to steal the 2026 election. And no senator, but in particular the Democratic senator, should play a part in that.
So that's Senator Chris Murphy. This video has gone viral, exposing the nefarious intent behind the letter. Matt McDermott of, I think, Media Matters, if I remember correctly, now I'm second guessing myself. No, he's a Democratic strategist, I apologize. I thought he was with Media Matters. He says, as insane as it sounds, it's true. Pam Bondi sent Minnesota officials a letter today saying ICE would leave the state if Minnesota turns over its voter files to the Trump administration. They're openly using state violence as a bargaining chip to seize election infrastructure. Second, repeal the sanctuary policies that have led to so much crime and violence in the state, removing criminal illegal aliens from Minnesota neighborhoods to save lives, and state and local officials should support this goal. All detention facilities in the state cooperate fully with ICE, honor immigration detainers, and permit ICE to interview detainees in custody to determine immigration status. I urge you to reach an agreement with ICE that allows you to remove illegal aliens in custody of Minnesota's prisons and jails and avoid pushing these interactions into your streets. Third, allow the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to access voter rolls to confirm that Minnesota's voter registration practices comply with federal law as guaranteed by the Civil Rights Act of 1960. Fulfilling this common sense request will better guarantee free and fair elections and boost confidence in the rule of law. I'm confident these simple steps will bring back law and order to Minnesota and improve the lives of Americans. The time has come for state and local officials in your state to change course. As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, I am committed to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping every American safe. Minnesota can and should partner with this administration. Do not obstruct federal immigration enforcement. Do not allow rioters to take over the streets and houses of worship. Do not hinder federal officials from investigating financial fraud and violations of election laws. Whether state and local politicians stand in the way or not, we work every day to protect Americans and make Minnesota safe again. I request that you join us in that effort. So it does seem like an attempt to extort or blackmail Minnesota with, perhaps some concessions or cooperation in ICE's conduct in exchange, at least in part, for access to voter rolls. And of course, when they say we want to guarantee free and fair elections, she's an election denier. She denies that President Biden won the 2020 election. She works with the biggest and most dangerous election denier in American history, Donald Trump himself, who himself attempted to steal a free and fair election in 2020 with his fake electors plot and then the violent insurrection in the Capitol. So they have no credibility on this topic. I want to close with this. Not only since we've now exposed the blackmail, I want to remind you that Pam Bondi is so unpopular. Glenn Beck, MAGA Glenn Beck, former Fox News host, is demanding she fired. Glenn Beck delivers support to take down the Trump AG, Pam Bondi, over handling in DOJ. He says, quote, let me make a case for accountability and action, why patience at some point can become complicity. The Republic doesn't die from chaos, it dies from tolerance and intolerance. There comes a point when the process stops being protection. That's what I'm concerned about. And he says she's competent. She should be pursuing more cases against Trump's political opponents. And he says, why do you say that, Pam? Because you were bluffing. Because you hadn't done your homework. Because you were looking for press that night. If you don't have a case, you say you don't have a case. You don't just leave it hanging out there. You can't have a country run like this. Pam, that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. As well. And he is demanding, quote, she be replaced right now. Fire. Then you have Stuart Rhodes, who is the leader of one of the militias that attempted to facilitate Trump's insurrection of the government on January 6th. This is MAGA as it gets.
Are there any people within Trump's inner orbit, about the big whiz, who feel like are missing? Yeah, I think Pam Bondi and Todd Blanchard fired was me. I believe they are now persecuting an innocent man, Brian Cole.
And that's Brian Cole is the pipe bomber who sent pipe bombs to the Capitol, or to either both the DNC and RNC headquarters. Lastly, if that wasn't bad enough for Pam Bondi, here is a Democratic Congresswoman, Representative Ansari, confronting Republican Congressman James Comer, the head of the House Oversight Committee, and that was Pam Bondi on the bus.
Chairman, the Attorney General you should be holding her in contempt to remain fair and to remain transparent. So I ask that you do that if you really truly want to be fair and care about the justice for the victims.
They are side. We have been very clear. We expect those documents. She has complied. She's turned over documents. In the
100%.
beginning, you all complained and said the first document drop didn't have enough redactions, and the second document drop had too many redactions. So they're trying to get this, and I believe we'll get those documents. I've been assured we're going to get those documents soon.
I hear you, but with all due respect, given everything that she herself stated in February of last year, her own statement in front of the entirety of the American public saying, we have the documents, they are ready to go. The subpoena from this committee was issued in July.
And nobody on our side of that, nobody on our side is defending Pam Bondi. I can agree.
So he won't go so far as to hold her in contempt because he doesn't want to embarrass Trump. But even James Comer is fed up with Pam Bondi. So again, she's desperate. She's trying to keep her job. She's trying to change the narrative, but she's cruel. She's stupid. She sucks even for Trump's purposes. And she's just been exposed, trying to blackmail Minnesota over this ICE shooting. Give us access to your polls, try to meddle in the next election because we know we're probably going to lose it, all else being equal. Maybe we'll make some concessions about this. All right, folks, there you have it. In the meantime, we'll thank you in the comments.
Lead smoke!
We got crushed.
This is a follow-up to an earlier video about the second fatal shooting by ICE agents in Minneapolis. We have some major updates, but understand that as we speak, new information and new details are still emerging about this shooting. And I expect that there will be subsequent videos about it in the hours and days to come. I'll try to keep you posted as much as possible. But one of the things we have learned is that officials believe that the victim is not just a male, but an American citizen who was permitted, who had a legal permit to have the gun that authorities claim was in his possession at the time of his death. So, with that in mind, let's go through all of the things that we need to get through. First things first, the rift between local and federal authorities, it's widened, understandably so. And kudos to the local police chief, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, because as the Minneapolis Star Tribune reports, federal agents, quote, attempted to order local police from the scene where a man was shot and killed by feds this morning. But Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara refused and, quote, instructed his officers to preserve the scene. In other words, Brian O'Hara and state and local authorities in Minneapolis and Minnesota clearly don't trust the Trump administration to do this competently or honestly, nor should they. Now, I want to play some clips from the police chief, again, in which he says officials believe that they have identified him. The name has not been released at the time of this recording, although while we play the clips, I will be refreshing for updates. But they do say that officials do believe that he was an American citizen.
On the information that we have, which is very limited, this is a 37-year-old white male who is a Minneapolis resident, and we believe he is an American citizen. We have not been told any official reports of what has led up to the shooting, but we have seen the video that is circulated on social media.
So again, they believe that he is a 37-year-old white male and an American citizen. I want to play another clip of the police chief. We have more where that came from, but again, multiple updates.
But I think the video speaks for itself. What I can tell you is we have identified this person, 37-year-old white male, resident of the city. The only interaction that we are aware of with law enforcement has been for traffic tickets, and we believe he is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry.
Because, of course, Minneapolis does permit residents to have guns to carry. They don't have to conceal it. Keith Edwards, prominent progressive commentator, this image is circulating widely. This is a high quality photo of the person in question. I want you to hear again from police chief O'Hara a couple more things.
That was funny. I couldn't clip you, Baggy. I couldn't clip you. Sorry. Oh, they crushed her. Excuse me. Yeah. Dang, enough.
37-year-old Minneapolis resident on Saturday morning. The police chief said the shooting prompted clashes between law enforcement and protesters as Minnesota officials renewed demands of the Trump administration end its immigration crackdown, which has now resulted in 2 deaths. Homeland Security
Ah.
Lead smoke! Lead smoke! Lead smoke!
They got me. I got a tinkle so bad. Oh, come on.
Lean smoke.
Bullshit. I'm gonna put some hot fire on that nigga.
Smoke.
That was good. Way too many. Oh, I gotta pee. Oh, I gotta.
Who's Lane Smoke?
Putting out blanket statements saying this is for sure self-defense, and that these thugs murdered him because he's a domestic terrorist, as Stephen Miller said. They did it for self-defense, and that he could, confidently stated that this man was going to do maximum damage. He was prepared to do maximum
Lane Smoke! Lane
The next thing that happened was that Carol Leonnig from MS Now reported that the Department of Homeland Security said that they were going to get from the FBI. So DHS is not even letting the FBI. And I'm wondering if that's because of that.
Candace Owens for actually looking into who killed Charlie Kirk, because if it turns out it was Israel is involved, then that's going to screw up their whole Zionist project, because Charlie had turned against Israel, and now everybody at TPUSA is full-blown Zionists, including Erica.
So they got the organization away from Charlie, who had turned from Israel. Now they're got back big pro-Israel. But if it comes out that Israel was involved in his assassination, that would kind of wreck the whole organization, and it would wreck their money funnel of $200 million, by the way, that they've raised since Charlie's assassination. So they're covering this up, and they hate that she's looking into who killed him because it would end their money train. And they want the money train to keep going because they're all getting filthy rich at TPUSA off the Zionist donor money train coming into TPUSA. And now what they're doing is firing people who they think are leaking information to Candace Owens. From what I saw, they fired 40 people at once. And she's going to tell you about 2 people who got fired. And let's listen.
Into this firing thing. I have a lot now, and I got to organize it over the weekend and things to give to you guys. And it's good to have a snowstorm I can kind of plug in. So I still don't understand what caused it. I can't get to the root of what happened. But what I can tell you is that one person got brought into an office by Andrew Colbert and was told that the CMO got into an Uber car and asked, just striking up some conversation with the Uber driver. It's like, what do you think about Turning Point USA? And like the dark art thing. And he starts saying, oh, well, I actually have a daughter who knows somebody who works Turning Point USA. And maybe she doesn't like the stuff that's going on at the company. An Uber driver was making a small chat with an executive at Turning Point USA, and his daughter knew someone, and that person had potentially said something that he didn't really love Eric. She didn't really love Eric at the helm, anyways. Andrew Fuller calls this person into the office and starts asking about this Uber conversation, and of course, he explains, I literally have no idea what you're talking about, and says that it was completely untrue, almost like they had fictionalized it entirely for some other reason, for some other unknown reason. Anyway, another person who had worked there gets called into the office by general counsel, thinks that they are being brought in because they're trying to get a raise or a bonus, because apparently, which makes perfect sense, things have been insane, obviously. They are all really have been working nonstop. Think about the size and scale of the event that they put on. To Charlie's Memorial Service, they had AmFest, they had a huge donor thing at Mar-a-Lago. So everyone's been killing themselves, and no one's getting raises and bonuses, and yet, according to this person, Turning Point USA has brought in $250 million since Charlie's assassination. Good luck proving that I hurt your pockets. Like, what? I think he did just fine this year, actually. I don't think my podcast did too much there. 250 million. I can't even wrap my head around this.
That's
LOL
good,
to the PR talking points that everyone's doing this for money. I can't. That is money that I cannot even comprehend outside of random articles written in the Hindustan Times where people think that my net worth is $200 million and I have 72 houses. Yeah, that's what's happening at Turning Point USA. Anyway, another person. That person regarding the Uber thing then said, if you want to know my actual opinion, to Andrew Colbert, want to know my actual opinion about Erica, you can just ask me. And he proceeds to go, okay. And then she kind of then illustrated that a lot of people just feel like outwardly the company is presenting like they're one big family. We're one big family. But then actually a lot of the employees feel that that's just a public presentation, that Erica doesn't even know their names, that only a handful of people even have access to her. And so it doesn't feel like the same company. I think that's a reasonable thing. Anyways, fired. Goodbye.
Fired. Goodbye. So they're doing it. And of course she said, oh, my family. My TPUSA family. There's like 600 people who work there. It's a giant corporation. You don't get to say that they're your family. They're employees who work for a paycheck. And so, get this. It gets better.
Within the same day, maybe the next day, I actually am not completely sure, another person gets called in, thinks that she's getting a raise, and actually they just tell her that she's fired. She's fired. It's like thinking, I crushed it at AmFest, I am definitely about to get a raise, this company is flush with cash. Actually, you're fired. So she asks the attorney, why am I being fired? And the attorney just says, we're going in a different direction. You don't get to have an explanation. Security's outside leave. And so at this point, the employee hits record on their phone because they don't understand what's happening. And thankfully they did. So you can now listen to the, I guess not excuse, there's nothing really to listen to other than her not being able to answer what she did wrong. And I'm making this very clear to you. I am not kidding. I promise you on everything. I had never in my life communicated. I mean, maybe I saw her in the back. I don't know. I shouldn't say never in my life. Maybe it was backstage. I never spoke to this employee once, never anything at all. Period. Not one of my sources. Nothing.
So the reason why she's telling you this is because the theory is they're firing people who they think are leaking information to Candace Owens, and they don't.
the front line for the third year of the defense of Siversk on September 1st, 2025. Although we can observe some change as Russian forces advanced 5 kilometers westwards towards Siversk. This is why we call Siversk an iron bastion, a real thorn in Russia's side. Now it's important to note that this Russian formation responsible for the Siversk sector was the 3rd Combined Arms Army, formerly known as the 2nd Army Corps of the Luhansk People's Republic. Many of these men have been at war since 2014. So how come they couldn't take Siversk? Well, the problem is that although they're separatists and clearly have extensive combat experience, they're still Ukrainian at heart. And unfortunately, they also inherited from the full national tradition of corruption. Because of poor leadership, the Luhansk Corps suffered from corruption, but also bribery and extensive extortion of its troops. This naturally led to high casualties, and cherry on the ruble, the commanders of this 2nd Army Corps of the LPR massively exaggerated their battlefield gains, and then sent false reports of the hierarchy to make it seem as if they were making progress. But in late 2024, when the Russian High Command finally visited that part of the front, the masquerade was over. The commander of the 7th Motor Rifle Brigade was dismissed. Same thing for all the battalion commanders, and it's possible the commanders of the 6th and 123rd Brigades were also relieved from duty. The enemy was in disarray, and Ukraine's 11th Army Corps was in pina colada as they prepared to hold Siversk for a 4th consecutive year. But eventually their luck ran out. My last update for the Siversk sector was on the 17th of September 2025, as Russian forces fought for a village called Serebryanka. Ukrainian forces had to defend a 20-kilometer front, but with their debacle, it's around the settlement of Serebryanka became weakened the next day. Ukrainian drone operators of the Ukrainian
We couldn't be, frankly, more honored to join you guys as much as we can.
Thank you for that. Thank you for donating the Daily Wire $1 million. Breaking news on the show. Thank you guys for
honoring Truly so well with $1 million. That $1 million was made to silence voices at USA who are actually upholding what Charlie Kirk was fighting for in the final months of his career and life. Most important is basically, well, I gave the $1 million to USA, and I'm here today to brag about that with BET on Christian values and biblical values, bringing people back to Christ. When this is one of the biggest miracles of Jesus
Don't believe in Jesus.
Yes, I'm Saikumal. Yes, I'm Saikumal. Yes, I'm Saikumal. Yes, I'm Saikumal. The Al.
And so the long-term vision, yeah, we'll have our petty squabbles, and yes, and those squabbles will be more than petty. But the long-term vision has to be built around those original biblical conservative values that Charlie stood for, things like the Bible, things like free markets, things like family, all those things. Things Charlie stood for. You got to build the coalition around values because we can't build it around the man, but we can build it around the values that he left behind that he spent his entire life fighting for.
Come on.
You know, we couldn't be, frankly, more honored to join you guys as much as we can in the fight.
Thank you for that. Thank you for donating the Pennylar $1 million, breaking news on this show. Thank you guys for honoring Charlie so well tonight.
Honoring Charlie so well with $1 million. Yeah, that $1 million was made in silence
American life, which are things that go directly against Ben Shapiro's worldview. Not bombing Iran, first of all. Telling Trump to his face, do not bomb Iran. I mean, that runs in total contradiction to what Ben Shapiro wants America to be united around not Christian values, but around literally just like annihilating any person on the face of the earth, bombing them, Mossad operations against them, whatever it is, who opposes believe that okay? And obviously that's not what America wanted to line around. He was talking about the fact that it's insane, fundamentally it's insane that anyone who resistance in Israel resistance Netanyahu is labeled as an anti-Semite. When actually these are values that he himself upheld. Okay? But the most insane part of this is that he's claiming, well, I gave the $1 million to TUSA, and I'm here today to brag about that because we need to unite on Christian values and biblical values, bringing people back to Christ. When this is what Ben Shapiro actually thinks about Jesus Christ.
You know, from the Jewish point of view, we don't believe in the divinity of Christ. But you can make an argument the gospel is true. He was a sleep prophet. Same with him. We don't have to say he's a prophet.
Who do you think he was?
I'm not, I think he was a prophet. He was a very Old Testament says he had
Resurrected. I don't believe, that miracles. They said Jesus, actually created miracles. So Jesus was back on his feet. So you look at the being God. That's what Ben Shapiro believes, at least publicly. I mean, Ben Shapiro's opinions about Jesus, I'm sure, are much worse. Probably are bringing people back to Christ. I mean, he doesn't even believe in Christ, according to his own words. If I were to say that about Ben Shapiro without showing you a video, I'd probably be accused of being an anti-Semite or something. But
Yes, I'm Sai Kumal, the alchemist. Who wants to know?
Just keep. Jesus, don't your fucking 10%. He wants all. He gave you all his glory, all his blessings. That 10%'s a little tip.
Yes, I'm Sai Kumal, the alchemist.
Blood on the dance
100% without a doubt angry. What Drewski is mocking is what man, what humans, what God's people has turned church into. Let me help you to something real quick. You
Yes,
do
I'm
know
Saikumal, the
church by
alchemist.
God
Who
is
wants
not
to know?
designed to be what we see in today, what we see in online, what we're seeing in these mega churches. Yeah, I say it. And I'm a believer, full follower of God and Jesus Christ. Drewski not mocking God. He is mocking the circus that we have turned church into. I've seen pastors flying through the skies in the rafters on ropes. We see pastors often that have to dress themselves in full-fledged designer, whole Louis Vuitton suits, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. Hear me out. But everything Drewski did in the skit, we see in church today. We see money-hungry pastors, and that's not all of them. We see pastors that have to drive the most expensive cars, but your church is in a poverty-ridden city. Drewski not mocking the church. Drewski is poking fun at what we, the foolishness, the entertainment, the show that we have turned church into. Am I fully on board with the skit? No, because it rubs me wrong. Reason being, because it gives a reality outlook of what we have made church out to be. And do it make us look good? No, it don't. It actually make us look bad. But at the end of the day, this is the result of how we carry on. And it's crazy that the world is highlighting and poking at what we do. And it's rubbing us wrong. It's ruffling our feathers. So is Drewski mocking God? No. Drewski mocking God's children. Yeah. And unfortunately, we mock ourselves every Sunday morning with the foolishness that we carry on with, and we call it church. So if y'all want something to change, do better in church. Give a better outlook. Give a kingdom outlook, a spiritual outlook on what church is supposed to be. And I'm going to be honest, it was funny to me.
But then again, not everybody was so open, because there are those hit dogs that did in fact holler, now didn't they? Pastor Michael Todd addresses Drewski's megachurch skit after fans connected it to him. After Drewski's parody sparked backlash and debate online, Pastor Todd says the real issue isn't the joke, it's how quickly people lost focus and turned on each other. What did he mean by lost focus and turned on each other? And he said after people matched it to him. I wonder why people matched it to him. Oh, that would make sense. That's pretty on the nose, huh? That is pretty on the nose. Oh, that was AI? Huh. Well, you off the hook, Michael Todd. Michael Todd dismisses Drewski's skit as a mass distraction. A mass distraction? It's a distraction? But he ain't say that. He really said that?
Pastor Mike Todd said that the Drewski skit was a distraction sent by the enemy to help you lose your focus.
Reason that I cannot be moved off of my post because what God has called me to. Representing God to the lost and found for transformation in Christ. That's what I'm supposed to do. And so somebody's obsessed with what somebody made that wasn't even directly pointed at me. But it distracted them from what God told them to do. The enemy is into releasing weapons of mass distraction.
Weapons of mass distraction is diabolical. Diabolical.
Yes, I'm Saikumal,
Crazy
the
work.
alchemist.
And are you suggesting that Satan sent Drewski on assignment to distract us? Drewski? Like, come on. Like, be so serious. I promise y'all, I feel like y'all would have been better off saying nothing. Because you saying that it was not directly pointed at you, but you up there preaching like the Lord gave you a word, trying to distract us from the fact that you might be a hit dog hollering.
My man was preaching like the renters do. I heard rapping like the renters do. I ain't never seen preaching like the rent is due. He was preaching like the whole mortgage and private jet bill came due. And the Christian Louboutin.
My personal opinion is that the Drewski skit was both perfectly executed and has opened up a can of worms to expose some of these pastors for who they really are. Because if you really didn't think it was about you, you wouldn't have wrote a whole sermon about it. If it didn't apply, let it fly. Like Drewski was flying in there.
And he certainly wasn't the only one who felt that way.
People were trying to link it to me. And so I watched the video. It was hilarious. It was funny. It was all this stuff. How you feeling, Pastor Mike? I don't even know really what happened. Because I've been off of social media. I had a few people tell me what was going on. I was like, that's crazy. I don't even got a Rolls Royce. What? I didn't know. Like people AI-ing pictures and doing something.
I'm driving this Billy Bentayga because I believe in Christ. Can you leap on your legs?
Here's my question. If the joke doesn't apply to you, why do you feel the need to address it? That's what I keep coming back to. Satire happens every day. Comedy happens every day. Most people who aren't implicated just laugh or keep it scrolling. There's no need to address it. So if a comedy skit comes up and there's an immediate urge for you to explain, clarify, or defend, or even distance yourself, it raises some serious questions to me. What nerve did they torch? Drewski didn't name any names. He didn't point any fingers. He portrayed a system and culture and a familiar aesthetic. And somehow people felt personally attacked where they had to address it. The Bible actually talks about this. Discernment, examination, letting the fruit speak for itself, not just rushing to defend appearances. Because here's the real thing. Satire doesn't accuse. It just reflects. And reflections only feel uncomfortable when you recognize yourself in it. So the real conversation isn't whether the satire is disrespectful. It's why you felt the need to respond at all. If it didn't apply, you laughed. If you didn't, you explained. But we all know the saying, a hit dog will always holler.
Now, here is one of the issues I have with this whole discourse. Now, I made it clear my feeling that man was the target and not God. But if you refuse to allow any delineation between the two, right? If any characterization or criticism of the men who claim to represent God is attached to God, well, they become impervious to any kind of pushback, which allows a space ripe for exploitation. And if that's the kind of space that you want to create and preserve, that's fine. Just know what you're doing. Just know that's what you're doing. Because so far, just in my preparation for this video, obviously I saw Close the Doors, which I always wondered how the congregation responded to Close the Doors. I said, close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. We've seen God was going to make a millionaire if somebody gave $10,000 in under 90 seconds. Did that ever happen? Did we get any confirmation on that?
The Lord said, I want to make a multi-millionaire out of someone, but they have to sow $10,000. He said, and they have to do that within 90 seconds. If you're going to do it, get it now, write the check. If you do this, God said, I'm going to make you a multi-millionaire. I wish it was me.
We got the woman aired out for giving all that she had, but not enough.
I, Roberta McCoy, given faith and stand in unity with the vision of Perfected Church of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000.
Was it 1,000 plus 1,000? So 2,000.
Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
Well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
Stupid hater.
we had whatever this was. I was so confused.
As we move into offering, I want to do this whole event just for a moment. Oftentimes, y'all, people want to give, they don't have the ability to give. They desire to give, they just don't have the ability, the means to give. Is there a person that you're saying, I want to be a part of offering and I do want to contribute to the building of the
Yes,
kingdom of
I'm
God, but today,
Sai
Pastor,
Kumar.
I just don't have it. I want you to raise your hand if you just don't have it. Raise your hand high. If you're raising your hand and you just don't have it, I want you to come real quickly. I'm not trying to embarrass you. Just trust me. If I'm your pastor, just trust me. This is what we're going to do. I want each and every person that is connected to me. You are a covenant member or a son or daughter. Encounter. Look at your neighbor and say, trust your pastor. I want you to get all the cash you can. And I just want you to hand it to someone that's standing at this altar.
Yes, I'm Sai
Okay, never
Kumar.
mind. Pull this one back, because this one he had the people give money.
Or a son or daughter. Encounter.
Yes,
Look
I'm
at your neighbor and
Sai.
say, trust your pastor. I want you to get all the cash you can. And I just want you to hand it to someone that's standing at this altar.
Okay, never mind. Pull this one back, because
Yes,
this
I'm
one
Sai
he had the
Kumar,
people
the
give money
alchemist.
to those that didn't have it. So that. Oh, keep playing the video.
Come on, do it right now. Just go forward. Just, Minister, could you go to my office? There's a wad of cash on the. You'll see it. I can't tell you what to do with what God just gave you.
Yes, I'm Sai
But I do know
Kumar,
you
the
gave because
alchemist.
you want it to be a blessing to the house of God. Now, everyone in this room, we can tithe and we can sow today. Give God praise. God bless you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Father, we thank you. Honor you.
Wait a minute. Did he just have the people who couldn't afford offerings?
Yeah, it's crazy, yo. It's dumping dumps.
So then they could give it to the church. Like, is that what did he just get
What
more
you
money
up to,
from the
dude?
other people through the people who
Cute. Is
couldn't?
it fun?
Is that what?
Yeah,
For the
it's
ability
really fun.
to sow and give.
Ooh.
Hold on. And that ain't what I wanted you to do. Hold on. I want you to think about it for a moment. Are you sure you want to give all of it?
Yeah.
All right, y'all come on back.
It's
Chanel, come here.
insane. I'm about to go
Come
break
back.
it.
If you gave cash there, if you gave all of it, come back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chanel, go and write 4 $200 checks. 5 $200 checks.
This is
6.
Pastor calls out he can't type.
6.
this
Y'all
one
do me a
lady came
favor.
over
Y'all
and
go
gave
out
$1,200
real
or
quickly
something, and he
to the
said,
lobby.
"That's not what I asked for." I
Go into
said
the lobby.
2,000, and she was like,
Do
"I
you all
want to go
have
to
do y'all
8."
have
I was
Zelle,
like, "Listen,
Cash App? I need 100 people to go out there and sow another seed into their Cash App or their Zelle. Why y'all
another
staring?
pastor." He was like, "The Lord just told me that if you have $10,000, you can donate in the next 90
Look at your
seconds."
neighbor saying, just like that, God is going to restore everything you gave.
Okay, so he might be off the hook because he wrote the check. So he might be off the hook. I need a judgment call. I need a judgment call on what we just. But now you see what we see. Okay, now you see what we see.
As a devoted Christian, that Drewski skit on mega churches was not funny. It was hilarious and spot on. Before y'all comment, I just want y'all to know that's how the rest of the world sees your church. So go argue with a wall. Don't argue with me. Y'all be seeing all those performances your church be putting on, and I be wondering, where's all that money coming from? Your pockets, your blessings, your tithes and offering, and the money that you've been struggling to pay your bills with, that's where that money is coming from. Your church got pyrotechnics, pastor be coming down from the sky like he was resurrected, all those smoke clouds. That ain't free. Every Sunday, your pastor come to church with a new suit or a new dress. It's 52 Sundays in a year, and they didn't repeat a a suit or a dress, not one time. There's no Bible verse that requires your pastor to be expended in the air. There's no Bible verse that requires your pastor to have a Rolls Royce in the middle of the congregation. Your pastor driving an $80,000 car and you can't even pay your light bill. You think God is telling you to give your struggling money to that church? Come on now, y'all got to be better than that. Your pastor ain't got no job. They work at a church, so you tell me, how are they doing better than you? Just watch this Sunday. Your pastor gonna stand in front of that big behind flash screen they got behind them and say something about Drewski's skit. And the irony about it all is that your pastor is about to look exactly how Drewski looked in his skit. Before y'all argue with me, y'all gotta go to y'all pastor, ask them how much that flat screen costs behind them, and then comment that first, and then we can argue. Because if you can't tell me how much that screen costs behind them, I'm not saying nothing back to you.
Hey, he just told Pastor he didn't have no job. I think he said his job is saving souls. That's what he said. His job is saving souls.
Yes, I'm Sai Kumar.
And he's never off the clock.
I sent that video to a cousin that I know is a non-believer, and then she just told me, like, what the church looks like to me. Like, that just got me thinking, like, wow. People think when they come to our church, focus a little bit, and we want to come today. I think the reason this video is so hard for a lot of people is because it's quietly and subtly a lot of people are passionate about likely to connect with someone if you feel like they're not I grew up in a very small church. So I always feel like I was it's just something to think about, like, wow, if Jesus walked up today, like, what would he say about our church?
And then the other thing that must be brought up is there might be some generational differences on how we discuss this and how we see this. Because there's certainly some generational differences on a modern megachurch.
As a Gen Xer, I can honestly say this. We have never done what Drewski did in that now violent church. But not because of what he may say in that now violent church. But not because of what he may say. Not because Gen X was so much older. Not because he doesn't know. Not because he was dating and rejecting afraid. Because when we were growing up, church did not look like this. Pastors were celebrities. Pulpit was not a stage show. And ministry wasn't a business model. Church might have been strict. It might have been messy. It might have even been loud. But what it was not was a service. Now, some of these churches look like reality TV meets Jerry Springer meets a luxury brand launch. Smoke machines, stage lighting, pastors in designer suits, private jets, seed money demands, and manipulative theatrics dressed up as the adults. So when Drewski drops a skit and everybody starts hollering, oh, he's mocking God, I need you to stop. Because the reason the satire feels believable to millennials and Gen Z is because they've grown up watching prosperity pastors treat the pulpit like a production studio and treat the congregation like a revenue stream.